Hey everyone. For all the bullshit, bluster, and propaganda being espoused and chest pumping by what? Christina Freeland, right? This little tiny thing, or feminist Trudeau out there espousing the rhetoric that, oh, we're going to push back. Oh, we're going to fucking rise up and challenge Trump and the Americans down south, and we'll fucking go against them toe to toe, and we'll retaliate dime for dime with our tariffs. Meanwhile, Canada, a country of 36 million US, has a population of what? 325, 330 million? 10 times the population in Canada feels like they're going to punch way above our weight class and somehow knock down the US, which is not only the largest economy in the world, but and has a huge and substantial population that can also be self-sustained if need be, because that is the history of the US, right? But they also have the world's reserve currency at their disposal. But somehow Canada and the fucking politicians in this country and those cheerleaders that keep propping them up keep seeming to think and promote or espouse or suggest that they can somehow go toe-to-toe with not just the Trump administration, but the entire U.S. political system and economic power. And somehow what? We're going to win? We're going to win? Listen. Hey, I'm a Canadian, and in some areas, in some regards, I'm proud of some of the things that some Canadians have done. I don't think that I've done that. I'm proud of some of the accomplishments some past Canadians have achieved, and I'll applaud them for it. But listen, that's like me, and I mean, I'm a drag racer. I'm a drag racer. I've been a drag racer since I was in my teens, and I'm very competitive in that venue, in that particular sport. But that's like me trying to go out and suggest that I'm going to kick fucking John Force's ass, right? And maybe, let's say it was only my second time in the strip, at the drag strip. Sounds good in theory, but it's probably not going to happen. I mean, is there like a 0.00001% chance that it might happen? Yeah, it's always a possibility, I suppose. But reality would suggest, if you're a bet man, would be to suggest that, yeah, don't bet on Bennett. John Force is going to kick Bennett's ass in this race. But Trudeau and Christina Freeland, they think that they can fucking talk up these political rhetoric and these talking points and make it seem as though that Canada is now what would we've achieved Hulk status now? Or the Canadian government has somehow achieved Hulk-like status? Hulk smash, U.S. And Trudeau? Really fucking... Really, Trudeau? Come on, I've seen you and Patrick Brazeau in your fight. Like, you're punching way above your weight. Even with an old 7-year-old dude like Trump, he's thicker, heavier. Even an old man like him would probably give you a fucking round or two or a run for your money as far as even in a physical battle. So come on, Trudeau. Come on. And Freeland, really? I mean, a booger falls out of Trump's nose could probably knock that chick on her ass. Like, she's just a tiny little thing, but she's... Anyways, like I say, the rhetoric that they're trying to espouse and trying to pump up this kind of nationalism, but meanwhile, at the same time, Trudeau acts as if Canada has no national identity. He doesn't believe in nationalism, but yet he's constantly promoting the nation of Canada. So, like I say, weird logic the way these people work. But anyways, let's get to the headline. Sorry if I've been already rambling, but hey, it's kind of what I do. Headline out of Financial Post. Trump's tariffs will be far more painful for Canada than the U.S., economists say. CIBC chief economist says even the threat of auto tariffs puts a cloud over one of Canada's biggest industries. Toronto. The United States is far better equipped than Canada to withstand the use of tariffs as a sledgehammer in trade negotiations, even though Americans will also feel some of the pain, CIBC chief economist Avery Schenfeld said Tuesday. Some Americans will face higher costs on imported goods from Canada, but U.S. producers will be at a smaller risk because their home market is so much bigger than ours, Schenfeld said during a panel discussion about NAFTA in Toronto. He added that even the threat of a 25% tariff on imported vehicles and auto parts, in addition to the tariffs on steel and aluminum that have already been imposed, puts a cloud over one of Canada's biggest industries. David Adams, president of the Canadian Automotive Manufacturers Association, agreed that the uncertainty effectively does the job of driving more investment into the United States as the safe harbor. If tariffs add $6,000 to $10,000 or more to the cost of a vehicle, it's going to make them uncompetitive in the U.S. market, he said. The Trump administration has used Section 232 of the National Security Act to justify imposing tariffs on import steel and aluminum, including from Canada. Trump also ordered the Commerce Department to investigate whether imported cars, trucks, and automotive parts were a threat to national security under the same act. However, U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross suggested to a U.S. Senate committee last week that the tariffs on Canada and Mexico had more to do with NAFTA negotiations than national security. Our objective is to have a revitalized NAFTA, a NAFTA that helps America, and as part of that, the 232s would logically go away, both as it relates to Canada and as to Mexico, Ross testified on June 20. Ross also announced that his Department Bureau of Industry and Security had begun processing requests for exclusions to the steel tariffs for products that aren't available domestically and aren't deemed a threat to national security. At the time, requests from 7 companies with a total of 42 products has been granted exemptions, while the department has denied requests from 11 companies that submitted 56 products for review. But I mean, anyways, as this headline is suggesting, as this article is suggesting, is sorry, Canada, you know, if you think you're going to take on the behemoth and somehow right, overwhelm the U.S. and what, knock them down to the point where you're going to dominate them and win out in the end, like I say, let's watch how this unfolds, folks, and you will, maybe at some point in time you will realize that, yeah, you can have all your Canadian pride and nationalist fucking sentiment and mentality as you want, but once again, reality's going to play out, reality's going to unfold whether you like it or not. And Trump and his administration have been down there saying, listen, okay, you don't like the tariffs? Let's get rid of all tariffs. Let's get rid of all trade barriers. And let's just compete with each other on the, on their domestic or international scale or globally, and let's see who wins out in the end. Like the US, so competition oriented. It's like let's see who can do a better job. Let's see who can offer a better product at a better price point and much more reliable, more quality oriented and driven. And the people around the world, like the G7 nations predominantly, are those crony corporations that have become so accustomed to be coddle-fed and have everything thrown at them. They're too lazy, they're too inept to even stand up and try to challenge all this shit and say, yeah, I'll compete on the global or international stage or even domestically. In Canada, they don't even want to compete domestically. So they're like, no, let's look to government. Let's look for more protectionism. Let's look to more fights. Let's escalate the trade war and see where that gets us. Well, you'll find out eventually. It's not going to be, well, it might benefit a few people, a few CEOs, some bigwig execs, or some crony corporations, or maybe the few in the government. But for the masses out there, yeah, these trade wars are not going to benefit any of you. They're going to be a detriment for you. All those wage increases, all those minimum wage increases that some of you out there have finally achieved or attained, right? All that was so you got a few bucks left to spend so that this shit, when it comes down the pipeline, you're not even at a worse disadvantage. Like I said, this constant, I mean, how many Band-Aids they're going to put on that big, giant, gaping wound, but at some point in time, the Band-Aids aren't going to work anymore, folks. It's time to reinvent the whole process and try to tweak the process to the point where we're getting something even remotely resembling actual free trade. Without it, absent that, the U.S. will kick the Canadians' proverbial ass in these NAFTA negotiations. Watch it play out, and you'll see that once again, I was right all along. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.